We gather today in the sacred space we have made together by our presence, by our breath, by our willingness to show up with open hearts. It is good to gather in a time that, for so many of us, feels uncertain, heavy with the weight of unknowing. And yet, it is precisely in such times that we need a certain kind of strength, not just endurance, not only resilience, but imagination. Imagination is so often relegated to the world of children, of fantasy, of whimsy. And yet, today I want to suggest to you that imagination is not a frivolous thing. It is not a luxury or a distraction from the so called real world. Imagination is a necessity, a spiritual tool, a creative force, a way of seeing beyond the immediate, beyond the probable, even beyond the possible. Imagination is how we glimpse the future, how we discern where we are going, and how we begin to find our way there. Robert Bly, in his poem Things to Think, invites us to think in ways you've never thought before. If the phone rings, think of it as carrying a message larger than anything you've ever heard, vaster than 100 lines of Yeats. What if our ordinary moments held the key to extraordinary insight? What if the unexpected ring of the phone, that knock at the door, was not a nuisance or a disruption, but a sacred summons? What if we lived as though the world was trying to speak to us in every moment, if only we would let our imagination open enough to hear it? Imagination is not just a matter of fantasy, it is a discipline, a practice. It is the courageous act of thinking otherwise. In the face of fear, it dreams hope. In the face of scarcity, it dreams abundance. In the face of despair, it dreams joy. It does not always need to be realistic. It does not always need to be likely, but it is always necessary. I think about the people who founded our congregations, the ones who dared to believe that a liberal religion could be born and sustained, one that trusted in reason and conscience, in the individual journey and the communal covenant. Those people, they imagined something new. They imagined a community where freedom and faith could live together. That was not inevitable. It was not foreordained. It was imagined. We too often forget that imagination is what gives rise to justice. Before Rosa Parks stayed seated, before Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of a dream, before Stonewall, before Seneca Falls, before Selma, there was imagination. The imagination to believe that the world could be different than it was. The imagination to envision freedom when oppression seemed absolute. The imagination to believe in something no one else could see. And I want to be clear here. Imagination is not denial. It is not escapism. It is not closing our eyes to what is real. Quite the opposite. It is often the capacity to see more fully what is real, to look not just at what is, but at what could be, and what is yearning to be born. It is to listen not just to the noise of the moment, but to hear what Bly calls the larger message, the voice vaster than 100 lines of Yeats. Listen to this passage from the poem. Think that someone may bring a bear to your door, may be wounded and deranged, or think that a moose has risen out of the lake and he's carrying on his antlers a child of your own whom you've never seen. There is mystery here, even danger, even absurdity, but also deep possibility. Who is that child you've never seen? What part of yourself, your vision, your calling is waiting to be carried to you on the antlers of some surprising encounter? What unexpected shape might your future take? I believe that imagination is how we co create with the universe. It is how we say yes to the holy that is not yet visible. It is how we give consent to the unfolding of beauty and truth in forms that defy predictability. And I believe it is a form of spiritual maturity to hold both what is and what could be in the same open hands. Imagination is not only for the dreamers and the poets, it is for the activists, the caregivers, the leaders, the exhausted parents, the aging souls, the lonely hearts, the wounded healers. It is for all of us. Our world today is in deep need of imagination. We are bombarded with narratives of decline, of division, of despair. Climate crisis, war, political gridlock, hatred made policy, violence masquerading as protection. We know this. We carry it. But what if we imagined otherwise? What if we imagined a world where healing was possible? What if we imagined our future where our children didn't have to practice lockdown drills? What if we imagined a community where every person was seen and valued and fed and safe? That may sound naive, but cynicism is not a virtue, and imagination is not a weakness. It is what will save us. Because before anything can become real, it must be imagined. As Adrienne Marie Brown says, what we practice at the small scale sets the pattern for the whole system. So we must practice imagination in our homes, in our congregations, in our hearts. That might look like imagining new ways to be in relationship, new ways to listen, new ways to serve, new ways to share our gifts. It might mean imagining church not just as a building or a Sunday gathering, but as a network of mutual care, a container for collective transformation. When we talk about the future of our congregation, we cannot just think pragmatically. Yes, plans and budgets and strategies are necessary, but even more, we need imagination. We need to dream about what we are being called to become. Imagination is also how we resist burnout, how we resist the tyranny of the urgent, how we resist the lie that nothing can change. Bly writes, when someone knocks on the door, think that he's about to give you something large, tell you you're forgiven, or that it's not necessary to work all the time, or that it's been decided that if you lie down, no one will die. What would change if you believed that? If you believed that rest is holy, that forgiveness is real, that your worth is not tied to your productivity, that joy is not a reward, but a birthright. What if imagination is how we begin to live as though those things are true? Each of us has that power. Imagination is how we say yes to life again. It is how we recover wonder, how we remember that we are not stuck, that transformation is possible. It begins in small ways. It begins when we greet each new day with a question. What if today holds something I cannot yet see? It begins when we sit in silence and allow new images to arise. It begins when we read poems, sing songs, play games, write prayers. It begins when we let ourselves believe, even for a moment, that the world is bigger than we have been told. So I ask you, what are you imagining? What are you longing to see made real? What has the spirit been whispering to you in dreams, in poets, in quiet moments? This is not just a nice idea, it is a call to awaken the imaginative soul of our community, a call to vision not only what we can do, but who we can become. Because imagination is not just about goals, it is about identity, about orientation, about how we walk through the world. The mystics of every tradition knew this. They spoke in metaphors. They prayed in images. They saw visions because they knew that imagination is a portal to the divine. So let us become mystics, artists, visionaries. Let us imagine this congregation as a lighthouse in the storm, a garden in the desert, a song in the silence. Let us imagine the phone call, the knock on the door, the moose rising from the lake with a child we didn't know we were waiting for. Let us imagine being forgiven. Let us imagine rest. Let us imagine that lying down is not failure, but faith. Let us imagine the future we want to build, and then with love and courage, let us begin to build it. May we cause it to be so. Blessed be, Amen, Shalom, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste. Thank you all so much.